mean something. It's peace and love in the band.
Tell me what they're smoking.
No kind of decency.
I know that.
And we praising Marcus Garvey and we chanting. That's Mass. Sing is a high mass. It's real class. We play with Jaja. No fancy, neither no whiskey. Just feel free, everybody. Sing it, Rasmus. It's a high mass. It's real class. We play with Jaja.
Our expression of the blues is different. If you go to say Jamaica or the States or wherever you find.
It's a high mass. It's real class. We play with Jaja. No fancy, neither no whiskey. Just feel free, everybody. Sing it, Rasmus. It's a high mass. It's real class. We play with Jaja.
Our expression of the blues is different. If you go to say Jamaica or the States or wherever you find the blues tells you like, you know, life is hard. Life is so hard. And the Trinidad expression is life is hard, you know. But it's the same, it's just that we do it with a laugh. And the laugh fools people. But under the laugh is a blade. Always a blade.
But if somebody heart have a hole and they need a charitable soul, well, I'm the first one they asking to sing. You know what I mean? Because I'm the free show. Cry is so king.
When you add humor, you see, you're on seriousness. That's why I was doing that just a while ago. I was singing a serious song. When you add humor into it, and you see, you capture the whole audience. You capture the person who listens seriously, and you make that same person laugh. You make that same person relax under the gun. You know, when you do that, you know, you're trying, you want to win the crown.
I was told about this young fella who had a song about sticking the jelly. Yeah. He was joking somebody up a tree. And I liked the song and I made sure that they introduced me to him. I can't remember. I think it was at the China Clipper restaurant or someplace. You know, we got to know each other. But you joking, what's it going? Joking.
Ali. Vincent, let me see if I remember this about 1954. A lady had an estate up in Laventille with coconuts in a quantity. She had this estate up in Laventille with coconuts in a quantity. Well, I heard how the tree's so high. You cannot pick no matter how you try.
Yes.
So I wait until the lady sleeping. I get the rod and I start trying. I said, I'm going to choke this rod high up, and somehow it must reach the tree top. I'll push it high up on the tree, and somehow I'm bound to get the jelly.
So, you know, with a song like that, I gotta be the guy.
Some Calypsonians choose the name of sobriquet because they want people to be fearful of them. A fella might have come up there and his name is Tiger. And the next fella named Lion. So when you hear these names,
and then they have another one named Zebra. So when you hear these names,
you get scared.
you hold your chair and your wife and you hold tight.
The sobriquet in Calypso is like an English judge. The English judge wears his wig. And he wears his wig to tell you that if I condemn you to death, it is not me who has condemned you to death, it's the wig has condemned you. It's what I represent. And so the sobriquet in Calypso came from angry, laughing men. They laughed, but they were angry inside. And they were telling you that when I come on stage, it is not me, whatever my name is, John Thomas, it is what I represent.
My sobriquet as an artist in the Calypso is Brother Valentino. That name was given to me by the great Grandmaster, deceased Lord Kitchener. He called me Valentino.
One day I was going to matinee and he saw me and he said, "You're the little boy who won the Calypso competition at the Queen's Park Savannah." And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Well, you drop a bomb on them, they should call you Bomber."
Because we want peace in the world, for you and me, peace in the world. Well, everybody has a conflict will never cease until we begin world peace.
When Prowler was a little man, maybe about 10 or 12 years, Prowler used to come around the Young Brigade tent on Duke Street in a short pants, and he uses to be prowling around the fence to see if he can get a break to get in. But so small, the older Calypsonian didn't want him at that hour of the night to be around the tent, right?
Like pitching marble. Then I used to pitch marble and ambidextrous, pitching any hand. And I had a fellow named Shabalong. He was the best pitcher we had done with our treat. So I always say now, you call him the king. So they said, I'm a pretender to your throat, I would think. I used to mark pretend on my hat. And it stopped so, the day that I saw name it stopped with me from pitching marble to Kaiso.
So when I realized that Sparrow is going to be stuck, that's my name, I added mighty to it. Because there's nothing like a mighty sparrow. Sparrow is a poor, humble little bird. And I decided I ain't going to be poor and humble all the days of my life. Put a mighty to it and confuse everybody. The mighty, mighty.
You know, you really can't talk about Calypso without talking about my dear friends, Lord Melody, Mighty Spoiler, and the Grandmaster, Lord Kitchener.
I think Lord Kitchener was the greatest Calypsonian ever lived. What I love about Kitch was his simplicity in choosing words, his melodies, lyrically, his storylines, everything was perfect.
Well, Kitchener, I used to admire Kitchener, the melodies and the way he put his words together. Kitchener only got little words though, and rhyme it. Take any word and make it rhyme. And yeah, he got something else.
There's no Calypsonian alive. I mean, talking about the real Calypsonians whom Kitchener hasn't touched.
So, Lord Kitchener, now I'm told that you are really the king of Calypso singers. Is that right?
Yes, that's
Will you sing for us?
Right now.
Yes.
London is the place for me. London, this lovely city. You can go to France or America, India, Asia, or Australia, but you must come back to London City.
Kitch, what could I say? He was my friend. He assisted me Calypso-wise. He assisted.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself shots. Shots, watch it, tear gas. Life rounds. Also, I can see that.
Just look where done! The man is a boxer, man. Watch your hand put in the boxer, man, to do that.
But since Mike wasn't there, no, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to you.
Right? Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up for talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If you didn't do a protest, you wouldn't see nobody. I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing.
Shortcut. But when I grew up, I felt well sad. I found myself in a funny spot.
Cause I noticed throughout Trinidad, all man and woman taking shortcuts. To get a passport, everybody taking a shortcut. They don't want to line up. They refuse to stand up. To get a US visa, they're telling you plainly, Chucky, do you know somebody? I got plenty money. And to get a diplomatic passport, there's also a shortcut. Just hug at Mr. Pandey and kiss his tender spot. And you don't need no re-election to rule the people. The shortcut is possible. Just lie down and sleep with the devil. We living in shortcut country. Trinidad is a shortcut society. Alive. When I was a little fellow, taking shortcut was the golden rule. We had a special shortcut to follow to take us quickly from home to school. To get a job later on was sorrow. If Daddy didn't know Mr. Ned, I would have been a vagrant all now. So it wasn't for shortcut, boy, I dead. Women used to dolls up the hair to go out on a jig. Now we shortcut hairdressing. They just dash on a wig. Children are learning tables again, like those of yesteryear. We have a shortcut teacher, he named calculator. And the shortest way to be a UNC senator. Forget from there and stay in Little Jack corner. And if you can't get too great to give you $2.5 million election dollars, the shortcut fellas is to burn down police headquarters. We living in shortcut country, you see. Trinidad is a shortcut society. You lie. Look, when I was a little fellow and about to make me shortcut, my grandmother used to warn me, you know, not all shortcut, just pull up your pot. So when Robinson found them 7 losers, he reminded me of my grandmother. Cause Robbie told those 7 losers plainly, there's no shortcut to democracy. But still, if you want to get kicked out of NAR and UNC, the shortcut is easy. Tell the police they don't see. And if you want to throw away money like if it exists, there's a shortcut to do this. Call a man pseudo-racist. And vagrants say the shortest way to get more charity is to beg for money in a UNC jersey. And the partner Gypsy jump on a helicopter from the savannah. He don't join the ministry. He looking for shortcuts already. We living in shortcut country, yes. Trinidad is a shortcut society. Mumbai. Realize. Uh-huh. When I was a little fellow, my neighbor named Comparabot. He taking shortcut all where he go, till we used to call him Shortcut Robot. Well, Shortcut Robot does remind me of Ramesh Maharaj. DAG, for Ramesh try a shortcut to cut down Robbie, and use a shortcut to hang Gold Shady. I lie. But still, if you want to get rid of Nair and UNC, the shortcut is easy. Tell the police they don't see. Young men are taking our girls again for dinner exclusively. The shortcut too easy. A breast and tie from KFC. And Shadow wait 50 years to be the top soca in spot. Now Bunji darling, where you lost, you want to try shortcut. And when I see this beautiful car here, and I can't even afford one, I make a shortcut. I make this guy so for competition. You see, we living in shortcut country. You see, Trinidad is a shortcut society. I like.
Guyana is a shortcut society. Special request there from Mr. Alan Bazillo, who, and I think Dr. Adams may know the Bazillos. They're Linden people. And I think some of them used to be in the Linden Fund. Mr. Alan Bazillo, I think he's friends to, he's relative to some of the Bazillos from Linden, but he requested Shortcut Society. Shortcut Society. Guyana is a shortcut society. Oh Lord. Chalk does there singing about Trinidad, but he could be singing about Guyana. Oh boy, you want to get rich quickly, all you have to do is to go over. You all, or Jack Dio, I was running today, so I couldn't play the clip. Jack Dio said, well, look, when T. Mohammed went to Linden, when Mohammed went to Linden, he gets some disgruntled PNC people to go and round up some people, give them money and bring them to take picture with he. And that in order to get the money from Mohammed, people had to sign up a form that they're going to join Mohammed party before you give them money. I laughed so hard when Jack Dio said, because Jack Dio know the playbook well. Get some disgruntled PNC people. But what I call them, when I call them by the name, he won't hang me, but he let the playbook out yesterday. Get some disgruntled PNC and PNC people, they're going to go round up people, give them money and bring them. He said that is what Mohammed is doing. And I hear that indeed, before Mohammed give them the money, sign up the people. You know, if it wasn't serious, you know, I would have thrown back and laugh, you know. The thing is that everybody's targeting black people. You know, because the word is out there that we badly off, our people badly off, and they're stretching their hand. So Jack Dio know the playbook. So when Mohammed doing the playbook, Jack Dio call it up, but you want to kill me. You want to kill me when I talk it. I heard Jack Dio yesterday too. Yesterday, you know, the Mohammed, they said they and Chedi Jagan was friend, and he said everybody saying the pitch marble with Chedi Jagan, and just like Nagamutu and Ramjatan, who betrayed Chedi Jagan by going up and joining with the PNC. Well, it's not that they want to kill me for saying me vexed with people and want to deny people their right to go and join the PPP. Here's he abusing Ramjatan and Nagamoto yesterday. I mean, these chaps are so hypocritical. Hypocritical. I mean, there was Jack Doe yesterday saying that if Mohammed got to climb a platform for give a speech, he gonna shit a bucket of shit. Yes, Jack Dio talking about a bucket of shit on his program. Where are all the moralists who cussing me for using bad word? There is Jack Dio. I was running today, so I couldn't get the clips line up for you all. But there was the man cussing Pani press conference, and all those who been saying, "Oh, David Hines is lewd" and so on. And of course, last night our blockbuster. Last night, our blockbusters they call it. The man admitting that they see young black people as fertile ground for the slave catching. Fertile ground. I didn't say it, it's they say it. It's they say it. And if I say it or anyone of we from we side say it, we are the biggest sinners. All the moralists come out and the people admitting that black people, poor young black people are fertile ground for manipulation. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101 tonight. Welcome to Politics 101. On a Friday night, we have Dr. Adams and Wayne Cesar here. Dr. Adams and
was at that same meeting came out with a devastatingly obnoxious statement that in Guyana, African people must pick racism. As our guest this evening, 2 lawyers and 1 medical doctor, but they would not be discussing the legal world of Guyana, or they will not be based in different time zones. We are filming on the balcony of the Everest Cricket Club. As you can see in the background is the Everest Cricket Ground and the youngsters practicing. And beyond that is the mighty Atlantic Ocean. Interestingly enough, this cricket ground was called Indian Sports Club. And tonight our topic racism. As our guest this evening, 2 lawyers and 1 medical doctor, but they would not be discussing the legal world of Guyana, or they will not be discussing medicine. They will be discussing racism, the pronouncement of Guyanese society along racial lines. We're coming up to an election, and one would have liked to think that as we come up to that election, the last thing we would want would be to incite people unnecessarily by invoking who is African, who is Indian, and who you must vote for or who you must cling to based on race. This evening, we will be discussing what 2 persons, 2 very eminent African Guyanese have said, and we will ask our panelists to analyze what we said. We start with Professor Clive Thomas. Professor Clive Thomas, as reported in the Starbuck News, said to his party's executive meeting, referring to African Guyanese, when you trade your votes for perks, when you sell your votes for resources, you lose your vote forever. He was, of course, referring to African Guyanese and visiting PPP government teams going to their village. He interpreted that as selling your vote. 1 week after Dr. Clive Thomas said that, David Hines, who was at that same meeting, came out with a devastatingly obnoxious statement that in Guyana, African people must stick with African parties. He said in a country where there is division between Africans and Indians, Africans must stick with their own. And he called African actors, African political activists, and African youths gravitating to the PPP some scatological discrimination.
May not have known of your struggles.
At the annual issue, a condemnatory statement.
Uneducated, the reason there is hatred because they haven't fulfilled what they should have done, and they now want to persuade the youngsters in Guyana to do that. And unfortunately, it's fertile ground. It's easy to convince the unlettered and the uneducated that the reason their life is bad is because of race. Has nothing to do that they wouldn't go to school. Has nothing to do with they wouldn't get up and go to work. It is because of their race. Somebody has got to stop people like them from trying to influence children because they haven't fulfilled what they should have done, and they now want to persuade the youngsters in Guyana to do that. And unfortunately, it's fertile ground. It's easy to convince the unlettered and the uneducated that the reason their life is bad is because of race. Has nothing to do that they wouldn't go to school. Has nothing to do with they wouldn't get up and go to work. It is because of their race. Somebody has...
Hey, hey, mouth open, story jump out. Mouth open, story jump out. So young black people represent fertile ground. Fertile ground. And they're fertile ground because they're uneducated and they're unlettered. They don't want to wake up and go to work. They're lazy. And they don't want to go to school. They're dunce. And so it's fertile ground. You heard Sanjeev Dattadin at Everest, former Indian Sports Club, saying that about young black people. They're fertile ground. So they're vexed with me because that fertile ground that they're talking about, that they want to go and raid, have impoverished our young people. They now see them as fertile ground to go and raid them. But because David Hines say, you're not going there, you got past me. And I'm going to expose you to the world, to those young people. They're angry with me. You all understand the story? They see our young black people as fertile ground because they're unlettered, they're uneducated, they're lazy, they don't want to work. They got nobody work more hard in Guyana than them young black girls who put in an uniform when the night come for go and watchman Indian people money and business. And they got the temerity to put down those people. Never. They got kill me. Bury me more than 6 feet and more. Because I'm not going to allow them to do it. I know. I always knew that's how they think about those young people. That they're going there. You don't think highly of people and go and put on jersey on them and parade them down the place and get them bowing down to you. You don't. If you think highly of people, you don't do that. I always knew what they felt about us. And I always knew that their anger at me had nothing to do with my language. It had nothing to do with who joined which party. It had everything to do that I was standing at the door and pointing them out to Peter. Peter, look the one who come in there. He used to go and catch slaves in Melanie. Peter, look the other one that come in there. He used to go and catch slave in Sophia. That's why they vexed with me. It come out. And so they went to Everest Club. I know Freddie Kissoon well, you know. I know you well. It's not an accident that he assembled 3 Indian men and an suspecting Amerindian guy, took them to a symbol of Indianism and put them there to denounce what they call two eminent African Guyanese. Are eminent now? Are eminent now? Clive Thomas eminent now? We only eminent because we call them out. And not just call them out. Defend our people from being caught and put back in modern day slavery. Let me bring on my friends tonight, because if I get going here tonight, they come with me there and jail me. But as Martin Carter said, jail me quickly. Slam. Jail me quickly. Slam this illiterate iron door if freedom writes no happier alphabet. Martin Carter. Them dunce who never read a book. Never read a book. They turn liars so they have to read Sanjeev Batadin. He's a liar, so he had to read textbook. But I am bet he never read a book other than a textbook. I want him, he's talking about Walter Rodney. I want him to name just 3 books that Walter Rodney wrote. I want him to give me two quotes from Walter Rodney. I want him to tell me 2 universities that Walter Rodney teach at. Them is for standard question we give you. I want him to tell me 3 aspects of Walter Rodney philosophical world outlook. Won't be able to say it because they don't read. They're dunces. They read textbook. They never read books on philosophy and sociology and worldview. They never had to write no thesis, no dissertation, no nothing. A set of dummies. They're bright because they could read textbook and they can read already. They can mambo. They can mambo. But beyond mamboing, they never read anything else that makes sense. A set of, if I you lose me upon them, if I you lose me upon them, but I don't want you to cut through more stretch. Tell Sanjeev that I challenge him to public debate. Not on textbook law. I don't want him to debate me on politics, because that's what me study. And sociology and history. I'm debating on law. Not textbook law. I'm debating him on law as an historical, social evolution of human society. I want debating on law. What he read textbook on. A set of dunces with suit and tie on. They tell me, the one Jack Dio say, I lucky guy and it's a tolerant democracy. They're better damn lucky that black people are so tolerant that they could walk around with a suit and tie like donkeys who read textbook and come in and play bright and calling, throwing out names, Walter Rodney. What the hell do they know of Walter Rodney, who only Walter Rodney knows? But anyhow, it's not me show tonight. Not me show tonight. I don't want doctor to sit there and say, Dr. Hines, I can listen to you all night. I want to listen to he. So bringing in he and we know. My brothers.
Good night. Good night, Dr. Hines. Good night, Wayne. And good night for our wonderful audience over Friday night. Die hard.
When you had to read your textbook to get your CPA, I know that. Doc had to read the textbook to get his doctorate in engineering. I had to read my textbook to get my doctorate in political science. But life is more than textbook. When you finish reading textbook, you gotta read the foundations of your discipline. This thing now you can't go behind the textbook. I remember Ralph Gonsalves said, them economists that coming back now, they know how to come good. But when you ask them about economic philosophy and economic history, they don't know what you're talking about. But you ask them what the IMF say about this, they come IMF good. Ralph Gonzalez says so. He said you have to send them back to learn the foundations of economic philosophy. Because you can't be an economist if you don't have a foundation. And you all know, as people always ask, African Americans always ask me, Doc, Professor, why you could get a scientist, a black scientist, he teaching biology, and then he just veer off and start talking about John Coltrane. What is it about you all? What is it about you all? And I used to tell them, I always tell them, you know, when you live on a plantation, you don't look for one escape route. You're looking for 365 escape routes. And so we are naturally, as a people, who have to exist on several planets. It's no accident that it is the West Indies that produce the Garfield Sobers. Sobers couldn't come from New Zealand or England. He had to come from a place called where you can do anything with a cricket ball. and that's who we are. So when these dummies, textbook lawyers, you call them, want to look at people like us and tell us that we are on it, don't let them get me thing. But anyhow, Doctor, I'll start with you, because you've seen and you know about taking the new ball. Let me start with you. You are the man, Sanjeev, that is in there.
Yep.
About black people being young black people being fertile ground. Your thoughts, and then I'll come to you, Wayne.
Well, I was getting a little bit worried here, and you were right. I can listen to you all night, like I normally do. But I said, "Oh, I don't know if I can, if I really deserve to be in this company," because I saw Wayne in his last show, and he was on fire, Dr. Hines. I don't know if you saw him or not.
Yeah, saw him.
So I said, boy, how am I going to be able to keep up with these two guys here tonight? But nevertheless, in all seriousness, Dr. Hines, it so happened that, which is what I normally do, when I go to bed, I normally go and replay your show and whoever else, Mark and the other folks. And last night, I'm lying on my bed and I almost fell off when I heard that the fertile ground. And I turned to my wife. I said, did you hear what he just said? And then I, of course, replayed it. And I could not believe it, because Dataden is one of the guys, one of those that to be honest, that I liked and respect, because he's always a more stable-headed type of a guy compared to the others. So I was really disappointed in that statement, because if you notice, it's the common theme about characterizing black people as lazy. Our own Melanie guy, what's his name?
James Bond.
James Bond. So and we are also, and I'm very used to that type of thing, because they say the same thing. The racists here in the United States, they say exactly the same thing. You guys are lazy. You don't want to work, and it's just they're just oblivious to history. Who could have worked harder than slaves? Who could have worked harder than slaves? It's the hardest work that anybody had to do when you were a slave. So, but they're oblivious to it. The other thing that was very significant, Dr. Man, very, very significant. And of course, I used to play at Everest in the days when it was called All Indians. But what was very significant, and that was not by any accident or coincidence, that when Freddie had to make it known to everybody that when he said Everest, and what he said, interestingly enough, this used to be the All Indian. So he had to bring that to everybody's attention, to put it in the context and to set the tone of the conversation. That was very significant.
Yep.
I'm telling you, I could not believe the utterances of there, which was deliberate, like you said, in the setting of it. They choose it there, and then Freddie had to let them know we choose this here. This here used to be the All Indian. I mean, if he had even said it was Everest and went on, why was that? Why was it? Why did it matter? As you said, Everest, if who knows it's an all in, that's fine. But you had to make certain that everybody knew. And then you've got three Indian portions with the Amerindian guy, and then there was no black portion. I mean, the whole setting there.
The whole setting. Leonard Craig, who co-hosts the show, wasn't on.
Wasn't on. No, I totally agree
Wasn't on.
with your analysis of what went on. But like I said, I was kind of disappointed in Datadin because I know him a little bit, and the little that I knew about him, I think he knows better than that. But to bring himself to that level to say those type of things, I was disappointed. Yeah.
Dr. Vincent Adams there. Wayne, your thoughts on the clips there that we played?
Yes. Good evening, Dr. Hines. Good evening, Dr. Adams, and I must say good evening to the listening audience, especially the women in the audience, as today is International Women's Day, and I decided I'll wear some nice bright pink for them so that I can make them happy tonight. So I wear bright pink for the women. Okay, get into the statement made by Sanjeev Dattadin. Dr. Hines, that is coming from the internal PPP manifesto. There is an internal manifesto and there is an external manifesto that is shared throughout the country. But this is coming from the internal manifesto of the PPP, which is to gain ethnic supremacy in Guyana at all costs. And Sanjeev Dattadin was correct in one thing when he said fertile ground, because it is the PPP that would have created that fertile ground, because most of the young people that they are referring to was born under the PPP government. So it really bothers me, and it shows also the reasoning behind, removing free university for Guyanese. It shows the reason, because an uneducated people is an easy people. They are easy to be led. Okay, when you have intelligent people, it becomes much more complex because the people understand what is going on. So shame on Sanjeev Dattadin. He's basically throwing the PPP government under the bus because they are the ones that are responsible for these young people not being educated. It's government failure. I lay all of this at the feet of the PPP government. And look, these shows are edifying people, Dr. Adams and Dr. Hines. Okay? And come election time, the PPP will pay the price for all of this, I believe. Over to you guys.
Thank you very much. Doc, I know that you pay attention to Jack Dio's press conferences. And I gave a couple of instances. One where he was condemning Moses and Kemraj for leaving the PPP and going over to the opposition side. He didn't say the joint AFC, the joint PNC. This is the man who was condemning me just a couple of days ago, saying that I against people leaving one party and going over to the other side. And there he was, condemning two senior PPP people because they left the PPP. And then the other thing, talking about the Mohammeds, said the Mohammeds getting disgruntled PPNC people at Linden to go and round up people and give them money and bring them to Mohammed. Again, like that again, letting the cat out the bag. Because if Mohammed is doing it, Mohammed learned it from the PPP. He learned it from the PPP. So the thing with these guys, sometimes people think that we shouldn't pay attention to what they're saying, but pay attention. I think our people got better things to do, and that is why we pay attention to what they are saying in order to bring it to our people. And at the beginning of the program, I cannot believe that man said that PPP people were shot by the police and they have pellets in their skin till up to today. He never said anything that those people pelt school children in buses. He never said anything. Those people beat policemen and policewomen. That man sat there. In the first place, after 5 years, they finally acknowledged that their people were on the street behaving bad. But all he said is that they were shot with pellets. Never said anything what they did. Dr. Adams.
No, in contrast to that and then where you get surprised about what he says, I mean, Jagdeo is the master of hypocrisy and lies. And the thing is, and that's the reason why he survives and gets away with these things, because it has become normalized right now. The man normalized lying. And when people hear, they don't even, they probably say, oh, it's Jagdeo. After all, it's Jagdeo. So it's an expectation of him. So he can mention, the guy just mentioned bizarre stuff. And it's how he dramatizes it. Well, they were running around with pellets in they were running around with pellets in the body. You know what I mean? But that is the man. And you were absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, I was thinking just like you when I was looking at the thing, when he was talking about sharing out money, because the man knows their playbook.
Yes.
When he was looking at the meetings that the agriculture minister was having, he started cussing on the lady that was yelling at Muslim, and the man, he said they were AFC or PNC plants, because the man knows he knows exactly what they normally do. So that's why that's why he looks at with a straight face. And the guy, if you drop from the sky or something, you look at this man, and while he's talking, you would swear this guy is somehow to buy or something. And you know what he said? He's so relaxed. Sometimes when some people lying, they're a little stressed.
Yes.
Not this man at all. So there's no never ending to this guy, and the guy just and I've got so many that I've talked about and have written about, but the man just continue. Like, you remember I told you about the one last week or the week before. The man says that since they got in office, unlike the PNCR, they have been publishing the field development plans, which is a big lie. Which the week before he made an excuse as to why they can't publish it, but then the next week he come back and say, well, we have published all of them. I mean, how? Yeah, but that's who the man is. That's who the man is. It's very frustrating though, Dr. Hines, when you look at that kind of stuff, and you know that there are lots of people believing everything he said, and they're not even analyzing, well, it doesn't make any sense. But he gets away with it, and that's what he does. And what's so barefaced, Dr. Hines and Wayne? The man throw the thing, the man would be calling other people liars.
Yes. And Doc, you're so right. As I go over to Wayne, the thing is that is anger is at people like Rick Ford and myself and Mark and you and Wayne and all the others of us, is that he is not convincing us, and we are not allowing to convince the people who are listening to us. And that is the anger there. Our people tell us sometimes, understandably so, because they get frustrated and they say we talking too much. But the day we stop talking, say bye-bye. Say bye-bye to a normal Guyana. Wayne Cesar borrowed Jagdeo at his press conference yesterday.
Well, Dr. Hines, you said something earlier on the program when you requested to debate Sanjeev Dattadin. And that is what is missing. That is one of the key ingredients that is missing in Guyana. We do not have enough debates. Elections cannot be won and lost on propaganda. Our standards are too low, and that is exactly what Barry Jagdeo is taking advantage of. Because when I listen to his press conference, all I get is propaganda. That is all I get from his press conferences. Propaganda.
You're quite right. And as I was saying, I don't want to debate them on what I train in. I want to debate them on what they train in. And here is the reason. You see, sometimes poor people got more sense than some of you who read books. When people made a big deal about the president not saying where he get his first degree from, it's ordinary people who straight out of we political people, we deal with something today and then next week we go on. But those people give that Ifot University a thing. If anybody had told me that the Ifot University phenomenon would have found its way in policy of the government, I would tell them, go on so. They're not so stupid. But I forgetting what I learned, and that is your prejudices. When you have power, your prejudice, you use that power to impose your prejudices on the society. The disregard for education, that you can buy degrees, has now found itself as part of government policy. That now you're not only now saying young black people are uneducated and lazy. You are now saying to the ones who are educated, black, Amerindian, Indian young people who are educated because some of them get first degree, they went to high school, they get GC and CXC. So they can be the uneducated and unlettered. And you are taking them and putting them in a program to under-educate them. Your goal at the end of the day is to use gold to under-educate our young people. And I am so glad because a couple of teachers did call me last year and ask me what I think about the gold thing and whether they should do it. They got to do thing in Dominican Republic, they got to do at some school, and they were confused. I tell them, don't touch it. But I didn't know that a year later, you would have heard that they're going into these gold classes and they're learning high school and primary school story. That the university that is supposed to house this thing say, not we. We are not part of this thing. That basically it's a mill to sell to sell people a degree that they're not going to be able to use anywhere because it's not a certified degree. When? Talk to me. Are you surprised?
Dr. Hines, I am not one bit surprised. It's concerning. It's concerning, and if you can have someone sitting, right, as president currently in Guyana, who his degrees are questionable, okay? It starts at the top and it trickles down. Look, we have got credible institutions in Guyana with the University of Guyana and Critchlow Labor College that we can invest in. And a lot of people remind me also, Wayne, the technical schools. We need to invest in our technical schools also, right? From an education perspective, an academic perspective, Dr. Hines, we are playing tremendously from behind right now. Okay, because of lack of investment on the part of government. Okay, so It's going to be a long and tedious rebuilding process, okay, to get our people from a holistic perspective all throughout Guyana back on point. Look at our literacy rates. They are down, okay? They are down. These are things that used to be in the 80s. You know, back in the 70s, it would be 84%, 85%. You know, we were up there. Granted, yes, we are dealing with a small sample because we have less than 1 million people, but we were an educated people. We still are an educated people, but not the percentages that we are looking for, Dr. Adams and Dr. Hines. Okay? And the PPP is a government that sits there and they do not care about the future of young people. It all starts and finishes in their generation. Once they are gone, they don't care about what happened to, you know, the young people in Guyana, a la all the borrowing against the oil, you know, our oil. Over to you guys.
When, and with all due respect, yeah, the 80 something you're talking about there is when we gone bad. When Doc and I used to go to school, the literacy rate was 97, 98.
Yes,
the highest in the Commonwealth.
The highest in the Commonwealth, yes.
Yes, when Doc and I were going to school.
Yeah.
So when you talk about 84, that is used to be Jamaica at the lowest in the English-speaking Caribbean. They were around 70%. God bless Jamaica. They are now in the 90s. But Jamaica used to be 70%. They are the largest population in the English-speaking Caribbean, over 2 million. And so one could have understood that. But Barbados and Guyana, right, were 97 plus when we were schoolboys, right? So, I'm in a ground of, we might have been colonies, but I'm in a ground of, we were eagles. We were eagles because what we were able to do is to take a colonial education and turn it into an education of liberation. That is why if you look across the world in all academic disciplines, you are going to find a Guyanese among the top 10. I don't care what discipline you talk about. Whether it's engineering, whether it's history, whether it's politics, sociology, you are going to find a Guyanese among the top 10. Because we were the envy of the world when it came to education. Sparrow put it right when he said, you know, if I was a bright, I would have been a damn fool. Because we were able to get past the hickory dickory dock, the mouse run up the clock. We were able to parse through that and still get an education out of it. Doctor, you have spoken about goal. You know something about academics. You know something about university. And I remember you and the AFC raising this question, why are they bypassing UG and creating this thing? Now we know the scam. Now we know the scam. It's coming out now. And all they can tell us is something went wrong. That's what Jack Joe said yesterday. And we are sorting it out. Over to you.
Well, you know, and we got to keep reminding the people because most of the population of this country are the youths. Okay, so we got to remind them. So let's put it in the context, folks. Guyana had free education under the PNCR. LFS Bornham made it free for myself and Dr. Hines. Wayne is much younger, so he did not have the privilege and luck to enjoy that free education. Free education from kindergarten right through university. We had that. What year was that, Dr. Hines?
76.
76.
76, yes.
We had the great education at the University of Guyana. When in 1992, when the PPP took office, the first thing they did was abolish free education. So don't let them fool you, for you to give you the impression that they want credit for introducing free education. This is no introduction of free education. It's because of the pressure and it's because they've been outed in terms of people bringing this information to the people. They've decided to go back now, but it's not going to go away. We have to keep reminding folks that there was free education. They're the ones. They created a problem, and now they're trying to let it appear as if they're solving a problem. But here's the other thing, Dr. Hines. And just to piggyback on what you guys are saying, especially Dr. Hines, education was like a religion in the, when we grew up, the most important thing. And that is why Guyanese and others coming from our background are so successful academically when we come to the United States, because in the United States, as we all know, we've got colleagues in the United States. Education is not that important. The most important is how could what's the for me to go out there and make a buck, how business or whatever it is. To us, education, we could throw away all the money for an education. So that's the culture we came from. So let's go back. And I know you mentioned about the president himself, and now this thing becoming from the University of High Flood, it becomes a a policy. Well, here is what's interesting, and we need to pay attention to this also in that same context. Remember, we talk about the University of High Flood, but also the PhD has a lot of questions, because guess who was the advisor for the president for his PhD based on information? The same guy who is in charge of gold. And there's lots of question as to that PhD and who wrote the dissertation and everything else. So it was that, here it is that there's a question over this PhD. This man, I can't remember his name, but he was in charge. And as soon as the PPP got into office, this man gets this job with gold. But the other thing about gold is that gold, it has gone so far, which is what we've criticized on this program. Gold has the same amount of budget, $4 billion, at the University of Guyana. It's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen, that any of us could have expected. Gold has the same $4 billion as the University of Guyana has. And now we see where it's going. The university that they're supposed to be bringing this stuff to, Staffordshire, I don't know anything about this this facilitating middle, whatever that middle group is. They have denied any connection, any knowledge of the. And now you're going to want to go back. The vice president get there yesterday and say, well, they're in renegotiating. There's no renegotiation. Why do you have to renegotiate when there's supposed to be some type of an agreement already? There's no agreement. Staffordshire, if I'm going to have a choice as to whether I should believe the vice president or the University of, I think it's Staffordshire.
Staffordshire, yes. Staffordshire.
Who you think I'm going to believe? For them to say it in such plain words. I do not know anything of the sort about either the gold program or, and when you look at these universities, they got one university in India even said that, so what does it say? Assumed to be a university or something of the sort in the title. But here's what is needed, Dr. Hines. This is the people's money. Somebody has to be held accountable. There has to be an independent investigation about this, including a full-scale audit as to how this money was spent, where the money went. Because I'm telling you, this area, it smells bad. And it's the people's money, and the opposition should be calling for an independent investigation of this. It's the people's money, and we ought to know where it was spent.
We ought to know where it was spent. In case you're just joining us, of course, it's Politics 101 on a Friday night. I have with me here Wayne Cesar. Over to you. And Dr. Vincent Adams, who's been my companion here on a Friday night for over a year now. I would like to give a big shout out to all our Indo-Guyanese sisters and brethren who are on this program. I now know that there's a critical mass of Indian Guyanese on this program. Some of you have contacted me privately, and some of you are showing. I always wondered about the relatively high number I get in One Repo, and realize that there is a big following of this program in One Repo. And on the Essequibo coast, I see Nadia here from the Essequibo coast. Those of you who are joining us, Nadira, sorry, Nadira from the Essequibo coast, and those of you who are joining us from One Repo, and all the Indian Guyanese brethren and sisterin who are joining this program, of course, Mr. Aziz and his wife from Bushlot, West Coast Babis. And I made the point last night, those who want to kill me about people joining party, the Aziz, they burn down the butcher shop because they're joining the PNC. Nobody, no party treats anybody as badly as the PPP whenever the people from the base move and join another party. The names they're called, the things that are done to them. Nobody never burned down anybody place in Buxton or any black villages because they belong to the PPP. The PPP people operate quite thing. But one of me nice place where just go and sit down is my friend named Paul Cole. Paul come from a PPP family, right? And we just tease Paul and so on. And Paul just say, hey, Twilly, let me tell you something. Me a box man first before me a PPP. And Paul thing. So we do not treat people badly because they join another party. The phenomenon that we are talking about is the one that Jack Dio spoke about yesterday when he talked about, getting some disgruntled PNC people to go and round up some of the people at Linden, give them money and bring them. That is what we're talking. It came out of his mouth yesterday. And only last week, the man was killing me for the thing. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to Mr. Bazillo, who requested the song Shortcut Society tonight, the Calypso Shortcut Society. Good evening to all of you warriors who are here. Winston Jordan said that free education was abolished in 1994. Right, coinciding with the introduction of fees. I was talking about Vincent, Winston name here a couple of nights ago, because I was responding to the thing that, the coalition didn't do anything for black people and so on. And when the story is being told, a lot is going to be revealed. I remember Winston Jordan, when he became finance minister, requesting of the political parties to make inputs into the budget. A lot of the parties didn't take up the challenge, but some of us as individuals took up the challenge. I remember going into his office, I think Aubrey Norton, we were at a place on the Saturday, and he said, you all come and see me on Monday. We said, well, we got to get a point. He said, no, you all come on Monday, say they know who you all are, and thing. Anyhow, what became the SLED project? I remember organizing 22 projects in 22 communities for mainly women who wanted to get into sewing and agro-processing, small business. And Winston signed off on that thing. But it had to go to a ministry. And the ministry it went to, the ministry advertised for the project in a way to rule out those communities that I, along with Coffee 250, had mobilized and got the product, write up the project nice and so on. And because the minister put the PS at that time, and I wonder why this PS was doing everything. The PS was an African. Why the PS was doing everything not to get this project to the people. I kept going there. Pam, pam. I got to cricket. Jack Dio coming out, Jack Dio see me stop and get off in me. And Jack Dio introduced me. David, meet so-and-so. So-and-so meet David. Me watch so-and-so. Is the PS who is a PPP man. He been here because he know what he did, right? I never know the man was a PPP man. No, I am not saying that somebody is a PS and they're PPP, you should knock them off. I don't believe in that. But I also don't believe that if you're a PS and you're a PPP man, that you use your position there to undermine the very government. Of those 22 projects that the Minister of Finance signed off the money for, only half a project went to Wayne Village. Pleasance got half of a project. I remember Buxton put in 2 projects, then got none the 2. For 22 villages, I think 28 projects total. And the money was signed off by the Minister of Finance. And this was to get black people, especially young black women, into entrepreneurship, small business. And they sit down there today and talking about how black people don't want to work, black people don't want to get into business, they don't want to get into this. That is why I've said on this program that what the PPP is doing is that they are not only trying to stay in office, but they're trying to order the political economy of Guyana in such a way that even if they lose power, or as the audience would say, when they lose power, it would be difficult for the incoming government to, start running from day one. We'd have to dismantle a lot of what they've put in place because they're ordering Guyana for them to control Guyana even if they don't have political power. And I just want to alert our people to that because the last time we were in power, we weren't necessarily hip to what they were doing. Vincent know more than me about the business people who refuse to invest money. They take the money, they sit down on it. Didn't invest in the economy in those 5 years because they wanted to undermine the government. There are dynamics in our political economy that we have to pay attention to. One of the dynamics, when Cesar, I want you to talk about, and that is the question of the army. Because I used to believe that we had a comparative edge in the army, and I used to tell Rafi Dev, I not giving up our majority in the army until all you integrate the money. If you all want to integrate the army, integrate the money. I changed my mind on that now. I want the army to be integrated. I don't think one set of people should be making money and they don't want to defend the country to defend the money. All right? And I am in favor of our Amerindian and East Indian brothers and sisters to go into the army and help to defend our country. Clearly, this government, although they get plenty money, they're not spending on modern weaponry in the army. They're not spending on where we had an advantage. I heard from people who were top in the army, said we had one of the best cadre of jungle fighters in the world. People who come from all over the world to learn jungle fighting with our army. So there are strengths that our army have. And we wouldn't be able to beat Venezuela. And none of us are that stupid. But at least we would be able to defend our borders. We would be able to defend our borders and not have gangs shoot at our soldiers. You think any Guyanese gang can go and shoot at Venezuelan soldiers? At least equip our army. But they're not doing it because they don't want to put guns in the hands of black people. They don't want to have a larger army because they don't want more black people under arms, bearing arms. And for them, it's about a racial and political calculation rather than a calculation that is going to defend our borders and at least show that we are serious. Wayne Cesar, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hines. And very well said. Excellent points. Now, when you look at the Guyana Defense Force, Dr. Hines, it's not today that we've had controversies with Venezuela. But the question is, we have not been proactive in building our army, in a way that we can somewhat deter Venezuela. We do not invest in our army. The equipment, the resources are just not there. And then to take it a bit further, it is not equitable to be in the Guyana Defense Force these days. You have to make that job more attractive. Okay? People have to be able to raise a family being in the Guyana Defense Force. They should be allotted a house lot after 3-4 years of service, whichever one, 5 years, whatever. You understand me? There must be equity. So therefore, you don't have people wanting to sign up, right? And that's going to affect your volume as far as, soldiers. And then the other thing, Dr. Hines, and you touched on it, training. We need experts, like you said, Dr. Hines, experts in ground fighting. All right. We are an oil producing nation now. All the monies that we're allocating in the budget towards infrastructure, you did it 5 years in a row. You could have done it 4 years where you allocate these large amounts to infrastructure or whatever. And then 1 year you just take care of the Guyana Defense Force. Build up your army, give the guys the necessary equipment that they need. And I also believe that there should be a separate entity from the Guyana Defense Force called the Guyana Coast Guard. All right? They're going to be the ones who is going to be manning the waters. It's kind of unfair for you to have big investors in the country extracting oil, and next thing you see, a Venezuelan vessel is showing up right next to the oil rig. It is shameful. It is disgraceful. It should not be happening. But under the PPP, right, anything that is negative is possible. Over to you, Dr. Hines.
Anything that is negative is possible. Doc, you can take a stab at that question, but I want you to take us into the realm of oil and gas, because we noticed that Jack Dio said very sheepishly yesterday, when we're going to arbitration. He didn't have too much detail. I don't know, but we're going to arbitration, right? That audit, that $214 million that has not been resolved. I almost had forgotten about it. And I am a person who's supposed to monitor these things, but I almost forgot it. Right? But they are going to arbitration, and we are now here. They're talking about the transparency in terms of the documents. Christopher Ram dealt with it today, and I think that organization, the OGGN, that you are affiliated with, they've also been highlighting this whole business of transparency in the oil and gas industry. So deal with those two issues, the issue of the audit and the transparency as it relates to the bill. And if you want to make any comment on the military thing, over to you.
Yeah, this here, and people, we talked about that $4 billion for that needs to be audited. People need to start paying attention, because this is the taxpayers' money, and every dollar that is wasted could go to the 50% of the people who are living in poverty. Okay, so here we have, besides the 214, so let me deal with the 214 force. Of course, everybody knows about the audit, and the other thing about it, remember now, that's $214 million of what was audited. When you do an audit, you take a sample. You don't do everything. You take a sample, which is about 5%. 5% of all of the activities. So what we saw is within that, what was looked at in terms of that audit is not the whole project. A lot of people believe that you go in there when you audit, you go in there and you audit and every single dime. That is not so. You do an audit of maybe 5% of all that, because you can't do all of it. And then what you do, you project, and then you might say, well, hey, I see a pattern here, and you might want to extend. The other thing, but this shows the incompetence of this government. The other thing, you hire an audit company. Okay, that's understandable. You don't have the expertise, but you should be in charge of that audit. The audit company has no relationship, no official relationship with Exxon. That is why Exxon refused to even let them see certain data. Imagine you going in as an auditor and Exxon saying, no, you can't see my production data, or you can't see the production meter. And the auditor has no contract unless you give them the authority. But we set aside, and then we're waiting for the report of the auditor. That is absolute nonsense, but that's incompetence. That's why we do not have a clue as to what goes on. We've got to listen to what the auditor says. We've got to listen to what Exxon says. That is why they take advantage of us. Are at the $214 million fiasco, and now we going back. Now we're hearing that we might have to go to arbitration. No, but here's the bigger problem. It's the gas to show project. It's probably the outside of the oil project. It's the biggest project that we've ever embarked on. It went from, remember, under the coalition, I think it started less than $1 billion. I think it was like 700 million. And now it's gone to like $2.5 billion, and we do not even know when it's going to end. It's a growth, it's way above cost, obviously, from going from about 700 million to 2.5 billion. And then, of course, the schedule early this year, just a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, you remember what they said? They said this project will come in at the middle of the year, which means June, July, some around that time. Then now, right after that, they said, well, okay, it's going to be November. And then right after that, they said, well, we can't come in November. It's going to be next year. These people do not know not a thing that they're doing. It's so obvious. And of course, the company is taking them to court for a lot of change conditions that they signed the contract blindly. The only thing that the vice president said was, this is a no-brainer. Let's build this plant right in a place where it should not have been built. The soil conditions are bad, and that is why the people are taking them to the people that are going to go into arbitration for $50 million. The site conditions, the technical issues that they did not foresee before you even go into a contract. That is why the feasibility study that they failed to do, Dr. Hines, that the coalition would have picked up those problems ahead of time. So here we are. We're wasting billions of dollars of taxpayers' money that could have gone to giving teachers a fair salaries and nurses a fair salary and doing the things that the poor people deserves and should have. So we've got two arbitrations. So it's not only one, Dr. Hines. We've got two. We've got the one coming up for the 214 million, and then we've got the one coming up for the gas project. And we talking about a lot of money, and you just like, if these guys do not care. The incompetence, yeah, we can't even put up a damn lantern post, and they're falling down all over the place. It shows the incompetence and the management of these projects, and they don't care because the money does not come out of their pockets and it's going into their friends' pocket, getting them rich. We're wasting our, and then on top of that, we going and we taking out all kinds of loans. And they do not even understand. That's the other thing that is going to hit us between the eyes. Because I'll tell you what, with this new Trump administration, that is going to be drilling, baby drill, and Russia's going to open its spigots with the new relationship. Venezuela, which has 30 times the oil that we have, is going to open their spigots. The market will be flooded. oil prices will drop significantly, and we are taking out loans like crazy, and with the expectations of paying back those loans with higher revenues from oil. And that's the other thing is, Dr. Hein, whenever we sign off on a loan like this gas to shore project, we and that's the impression that the vice president wanted to give. Well, they did Exim Bank did their studies. Exim Bank don't care anything about your technical studies. Exim Bank, all they want to know is you have the means to pay back. You have the means to pay back, and they see that revenue coming in. And so you see what China is doing in places like in Africa. Guess what they're doing? They're seizing your ports. So those are the kinds of things that these people are either they're not thinking it through, or they don't know what the heck they're doing. So that's the dilemma that we're in. It's a serious issue.
That's the dilemma that we're in. That's the dilemma that we're in, Dr. Vincent Adams here tonight. Good evening to all of you who are joining us from all over Guyana. Akwasi is joining us, I think, from Kenya. Akwasi is in Kenya tonight, joining us. He's learning Swahili. Jambo and Dugu. Good that you're joining us. I know some people are joining us from Johannesburg out there, and those of you who are joining us from Senegal and Ghana. Thanks to my sister who visited there last year, and she was blown over when she went down into one of those dungeons that they used to hold the captured people before they set them sail across the Middle Passage. And they were displaying books there, and she saw Walter Rodney's books being displayed there, and she screamed because she was blown away that a Guyanese, and the tour guides were speaking about Walter Rodney in glowing terms. And she said, but I know Walter Rodney as a child. He used to come to our house. My brothers used to be in the WPA, his party, and so on. And she said, here's my brother, Politics 101, you all should look. So I said, my Senegal and Ghanaian audience grew thanks to my sister. Always when people go all over the world and they see people talk about our country in a certain way, it shocks us because we are a small country, but we are a small country with a very large potential to turn. I mean, the kind of human capital that we have in Guyana. I mean, who can work harder than those young women? They got young women, Indian and African women, who today still cutting grass in the sugar estates. And you are looking at people and telling them that so those women are going to sit down at market from 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I go in the market there in Guyana 2-3 o'clock in the morning. You got those women there selling, some of them sleeping. Understand? You gotta wake them up. And you are watching those people and tell them that they're lazy, they don't want to go to work. I mean, when I know you are not taking lightly this issue of the distribution, the giving away of our prime lands to favored people, selective people, and you've been paying attention. And there one family has gotten what 3,000.
One family, a known family, and I'm sure most of the viewers and listeners on the program tonight know exactly who I'm talking about. 80,000 acres of land.
80,000 acres of land.
Yes. And there is no way that can ever happen without government knowledge.
Hey, Wayne, could I butt in here?
Yes, Dr. Adams.
To put things into perspective, I run the numbers. Do you know what 80,000 acres is, guys? It's 5 times the size of Georgetown. The whole of Georgetown.
Lord of mercy.
Listen to this. It's 2 times the size of St. Kitts.
Wow.
And it's 75% or 3/4 the size of Barbados. That's in one man. It's 3/4 the size of the whole island of Barbados, twice the size of St. Kitts, and 5 times the size of the entire boundaries of Georgetown, Guyana. Take it away, Wayne.
And you know, that's so interesting because it also equates to 320,000 house lots. Okay? And we got all those Guyanese line up there on lines, you know, and their names on lists waiting for a piece of the pie, a piece of prize land, Dr. Adams and Dr. Hines, in their own country. It's not like they came to Canada or the United States or somewhere and put their name on a list. Okay? Their name were placed on a list, some of them 2-3 decades ago, and they are still sitting and waiting. Some people would have even left this world, okay, and that dream was never realized for them. And these politicians who is sitting at the top of their thrones, you understand me, ripping off the Guyanese people day in and day out, have the gall to talk about people being lazy. I have said this, and I'm going to say it again. These politicians, they are not going to understand until the Guyanese people start showing up at their doors. Okay? They are not going to get it until people start showing up at their doors. This is overbearing. It is unacceptable. Okay, the people of Guyana is losing in all ways and all forms. Look, Dr. Adams just spoke on Venezuela oil probably opening up again. Russia oil is going to open up because they're dealing with the United States. So the probability of Russian oil opening is very high. Okay, what is that going to do? It's going to drive the oil prices down. What is going to happen to Guyana? We are going to struggle, okay, to pay our interest on those loans that we are taking out against our oil reserve. Now, the oil reserve is there, yes, but the value has diminished tremendously because, you know, Russia oil is open, Venezuela oil is open. What does that equate to? It equates to Guyana being the fastest growing economy for 5 straight years, and the Guyanese people not receiving any equity for that. Nothing. $100,000 is a freak. Okay? That is 2 months grocery shopping, a proper grocery shopping, 2 months. And that is finished. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And Dr. Hines, you said something. To the extent a new government come into place, we have a massive issue. Okay? Because when you look at the finances in Guyana, who has the finances? Who has the financial network on lock in Guyana? The PPPC. And I know the Honorable Winston Jordan is on here.
It's going to
be
quite.
There's a new government.
Yes,
there
yes.
needs to be massive investigations, massive audits. Dr. Hines, this is not a 3-year project. It's going to take around 7 years, I believe, to eradicate all that was built up over those 23 years plus this 5 years. It's a lot of work. And a lot will be uncovered, including a lot of businesses, large companies and corporations in Guyana being unable to source their capital. That is a massive issue. Where has your capital come from? I know that many of them will not be able to answer that question and will not be able to show source documents of how they would have gotten that capital. And that's a major problem. Over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Thank you very
Dr.
much. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Doctor.
Yeah, let me because he triggered something there, which I missed the second question you asked me. He mentioned reserves. And you know, we've talked about this over and over, Dr. Hines. Reserves. All reserves is our bank account. It's the people of Guyana's bank account. Okay? And the problem is the government does not even want to let the people of Guyanese know what is in their bank account. It's been over 3 years, going on 4 years now, since they declared 11 billion barrels of oil. After the 20, I think it was the 23rd discovery. And you remember, under the coalition, as soon as they were the discovery, it was announced. It was announced. We, since 2020, 21 or 2022, I think that was the last declared discovery of. So we still have 11 billion barrels, even though we've had 23 more discoveries. 23. And by the way, there's an advantage to doing that. That I don't have the time to get into it, but there's an advantage to doing that. But here they're hiding those numbers, and that's what. In your second question that you had asked me to address was the today's newspapers with Christopher Ram and the OGGN, the Oil and Gas Network. They had a podcast last night where it's all about the government is hiding every single piece of information from the people to whom every piece of that information belongs. It says that in the contract that the government, meaning who represents the people, owns all of the information. Simple things. The two most important documents, Dr. Hines, the field development plan that I've been talking about all the time, it gives the details as to how this project will be conducted, all the technical details. Jagder, the first thing he said that, well, it's sanctity of contract, which was absolute nonsense. Then he said, well, it's too complicated. It's too complicated. So Guyanese people wouldn't be able to understand. Now, he should stop judging people by his standard. If he can't understand it, don't judge other people that if you want to be a dunce, that's your standard. Don't judge other people because we could understand it. And then, so now he's gone to he came up last week, like I said, and said lie barefacedly that they had published these FDPs, which is a blatant lie. The other thing is the most important document, Dr. Hein, every time you ask Exxon what about the reserves, the updated reserve, you know what Exxon says? We submit quarter reports to your government. Every quarter we submit those reports, which means that those reports have those numbers. Not only do they have the numbers, they have the expenditures. Nobody knows what the expenditures are. Nobody knows how much, like when you go buy a house, for example, the bank gives you what is called an amortization schedule. If it's a 30-year loan, every single month for that 30 years, it tells you how much you're paying. We do not have that. We do not know how much we're paying for the capital cost. You know what's the capital cost right now? Just for the first 6 projects, $55 billion US. 55 billion. And so now they've got to pay that off on top of the operations cost. And we do not know how much we're paying back for the amortization cost, nor the operations cost. So we might be paying this here forever throughout the life. We might be getting that 14.5%. But here's the other thing, Dr. Hans, and I've mentioned this before. It's a myth when they talk about that 75% cost all that is capped. There's no cap. We do not know how much it's costing. It might be 85%, it could be 90%. But everything over that 15%, over that 75% is carried over and over and over. So you've got 15%, currently 650,000 barrels. Calculate. You got 15% of the 650,000 barrels right now. Every month, you calculate that 15%, and it's going on top of what you owe, that debt. But you still don't know how much of that debt you're paying off. That's what's in those quarterly reports. We have to know it belongs to us. It's our money. And that's what we got to get into the people, and we need to be putting pressure. So that was what the OGGN was talking about last night, and Christopher Ram was talking about today. And that's what a lot of us have been talking about all the time.
Dr. Hines, I just want to comment quickly after Dr. Adams here. And Dr. Adams, very, very good point you just made. And there's no secrecy about that information that of
No.
what Dr. Adams just said. That should be public knowledge.
Yeah.
And this is where the PPP, is getting an edge on the Guyanese people. They are blocking the Guyanese people from this type of knowledge. They don't want the people to be knowledgeable of this stuff. Okay, it's just what the guy comes on Thursdays and talk about. So it is good that we're having these programs to edify the Guyanese people, and they're going to start demanding higher standards. And I can't wait. I look forward to it. Over to you, Dr. Hines.
Dr. Hines, quickly, 1 second. This here is a very, very important comment from Andrea Boston. And Mucko residents cannot get to stay on their land. You remember I told you the size of that land? 5 times the size of Georgetown. But they kicked the Mucko residents off of there with a little bitty little piece, and then you get to find out they didn't even need the land that they kicked them off to build that road.
The injustice that is rampant in our country. Brother Dr. Vincent Adams, Brother Wayne Cesar here tonight. We have gone over our time, so I will ask you guys to give your closing thoughts, and then we'll call it a night. I'll start with you, Wayne, your closing thoughts, and then to Dr. Adams.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Hines, and thank you for having me. My closing thought, Dr. Hines, is that, I've been looking at the opposition. Okay, we do not have a formed coalition as yet, but I am confident that there is going to be one. But I want to close off tonight by saying that it is very important, it is imperative that all the leaders in the opposition put aside their differences, put aside their egos. Dr. Hines, I know that you're very good at this. You're always on the ground with the people. You're never egotistical. I'm not saying that the other two leaders are, but I'm saying these things need to be put aside. Okay? Dr. Vincent Adams and the Honorable former Minister of Finance, Winston Jordan, who is watching this program. These are important people to move this country forward. We need everybody to be on board. No one needs to be left out. Okay? We need to be on one accord. All right? This is not about individuals. This is about the people of Guyana. This equates to the ground level, the people of Guyana. All right? You cannot look at it from the political eye line. All right? Because a lot of the politicians is not facing what the normal man and woman is facing on the ground. But they are putting their belief, okay, in their representatives. They're expecting that their representatives are going to execute on their behalf. Now, an election can be called at any time. All right, we haven't seen much movement on a new voters list and biometrics. All right, but the PPP is very, very crafty, right? And they can call elections at any time. I say the opposition needs to be ready. For the sake of the Guyanese people, the opposition needs to be ready. Dr. Hines, again, thank you for having me.
Dr. Adams, thank you very much, Wayne. And Dr. Adams, your closing thoughts.
Sure, and since Wayne has addressed the politicians, let me address or advise the voters, because that's where the power is. And voters, please pay attention. Here is your opportunity. And I know you love your country, but this country will not survive or satisfy its potential for becoming by far the richest country on the planet unless this government change. And you can look, we this is a small portion of what we went through here tonight. But here it is from a personal level. You have all the billions, not the government, because they believe that they own. You have all the billions of dollars in the bank book, your bank book, and the government doesn't even want to let you have access to it, or to even let you know how much you have in it, or to spend it. But guess what? Their friends and families and cronies are spending like crazy. Look around, folks. Look around. See who are getting rich and building the big mansions and driving a nice fancy car. It's not the ordinary person. More than 50% of the Guyanese population are living on less than $5 per day. And you will continue to do that unless you have a change in this government. Also, look at the corruption. Look at the corruption. And what's going to happen when that 50% cannot survive? What is going to happen? Dr. Hines, you guys know more, you guys are more sociologists more than I do. It's going to have a social impact in people resorting to things such as crime, to covet others, whatever others have, so that they can survive. Please do not let us get there. There's enough here for us, again, to become the richest country on the planet. When you hear the GDP, which means the cost of goods and services, the GDP for Guyana is 83,000 US dollars. 83,000. How much? And what did I just say? Each of us are living on what, 5,000, $5 per day. Not even close to $83,000 per year, which would be what? But 7,000 US dollars per year.
Yes.
But we're getting we're getting, we, I mean, per month, per month.
550 a month.
We're getting 550 a month. But the GDP says, at least we should have value of about 7,000 per month. So you judge for yourself. Judge for yourself. Hell, we even have a higher GDP than the United States of America per capita. So judge for yourself, folks. We need, this area is not going in the right direction. We need a change. And I think take it seriously and take your country, I know you want to lead your country in the right direction. And the only way you can do that is changing this government. And we can spend the rest of the year talking about the wrongs of what's going on here. So make your votes count.
Make your votes count. And of course, it's international agencies that are saying that 50% of our people live on $5.50 US per day. You round that off to a month, it's about $150 US per month. Oh my goodness, that's $30,000 Guyanese dollars per month. And that's the money. I remember when they had free zones in Jamaica in the 1980s and 90s, they used to earn $30 US per fortnight. $30 US per fortnight, which means $60 US per month. We are not far off from that. My brothers, thank you all so much for coming on tonight and enlightening us and bringing some sense to our national discourse. We are eternally grateful to you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Hanks. Good night. Good
night. Thanks.
And to you, the audience, thank you all very much. Another week, another 7 days in the valley. But we will not give up. We will continue to press on because there is going to be no victory without struggle. Struggle we must. I'm gone for a couple of days. I'll be here. We will be here on Sunday night talking cricket, but we will be back on Monday for another week of Politics 101. I would like to thank all of you who have contributed to the program. I haven't had a chance to see the latest contributors, but first thing on Monday, I will have that information, and I will thank those of you who have contributed in the past week. We cannot do this without you, and we are grateful always, always for you standing with us. You standing with us. See you all on Monday.